Cole would never have imagined that ordinary Tuesday would change his life forever. He was riding back to his ranch after visiting the nearby town, supplies tied to his saddle, his mind at ease. The Arizona desert stretched before him, vast and silent, just as he had always known it, but then something caught his attention. In the distance, a dark shape moved erratically across the golden sand. It wasn't an animal. The movement was too random, too desperate. It was human, and whoever it was, they were in serious trouble. Cole yelled twice, spurred his horse, and galloped in that direction. The hot wind whipped his face as he closed the distance. His heart began to beat faster as he got a better look at the scene. A young woman, maybe about 30 years old, staggered under the unforgiving sun. Her Apache dress was torn and covered in desert dust, and behind her, clinging to her legs as if they were their only refuge in the world, were two small figures. Children. Cole leaped off his horse before it had even come to a full stop. What he saw chilled his blood despite the blazing heat. The woman's lips were cracked and bleeding from dehydration. Her skin showed signs of days under the merciless sun, but what struck him most were her eyes, the eyes of a mother who had fought to her last breath. "Please." Her voice was barely a hoarse whisper. She could barely stand. "Please, mister." She fell to her knees on the burning sand, gently pushing the children forward with trembling hands. A girl about 6 years old with big dark eyes full of tears, and a little boy no older than 4 clinging to his sister's skirt. "My children." Tears ran down the woman's cheeks, leaving clean tracks in the dust on her face. "Take my children, leave me here, I don't matter, only them, let them live." The words pierced Cole's heart like arrows. This woman, this mother, was willing to sacrifice herself, to die alone in the desert if it meant someone would save her children. "Mama, no," the girl screamed, clinging to her mother in desperation. Cole knelt in front of them, quickly pulling out his canteen. He looked directly into the woman's eyes with absolute firmness. "Ma'am, listen to me carefully, and listen now. I'm not leaving anyone here, not you and not your children. I'm taking all 3 of you to my ranch. That's my word of honor." Woman looked at him with a mixture of disbelief and confusion. A cowboy offering help to an Apache woman and her children. Her eyes searched for any sign of deception, of cruel mockery, but on Cole's face there was only sincere determination. "Why?" she murmured before her eyes began to close, exhaustion finally overcoming her. Cole acted with the speed of someone used to desert emergencies. He checked the children first. They were weak, clearly hungry and scared, but conscious and breathing well. Then he looked at the woman's canteen, completely empty. Her supply bag was the same. This mother had given her last bite of food, her last drop of water to her children. She had walked empty so that they might live. "Little ones, look at me," Cole said in a soft but firm voice. "Your mom is going to be okay, but I need you to be very brave right now. Can you do that for me?" The girl nodded, wiping her tears with her small, dirty hands. The boy copied her, though his lips trembled. "Good. Now drink some water, slowly, small sips. There you go, perfect." He gave them water carefully, knowing too much too fast could make them sick. Then he wet his bandana and moistened the unconscious mother's cracked lips. She barely reacted, but her breathing was steady. Her pulse, though weak, was firm. She was a warrior, a survivor. With infinite care, Cole lifted the woman into his arms. She was light, too light. How many days had she walked without eating? How many nights without sleep, protecting them from the desert cold? He settled her gently on his horse, making sure she wouldn't fall. Then he put the girl in front of the saddle and the boy behind, both holding on to their mother. He would walk, leading the animal. His ranch was just over an hour away, an hour that could mean the difference between life and death. "What are your names, little ones?" he asked as he began to walk, guiding the horse by the reins. "Luna," the girl answered in a trembling voice. "And he's Kai. Our mama's name is Yuma." "Beautiful names, all of them. I'm Cole. And Yuma, Luna, Kai, I give you my word that you are going to be safe and protected." The sun beat down on them mercilessly as Cole walked with determination. Sweat ran down his forehead, but he didn't care. Every step brought him closer to salvation. Every step meant hope. Luna kept looking at her mother, constantly checking that she was still breathing. Her little eyes reflected a fear no child should ever know. "Your mom is very strong, Luna," Cole told her. "Look at everything she did for you and your brother. She walked for days to keep you alive. That's the strength of a mother's love, and believe me, she's going to be okay." Finally, after what felt like an eternity under the scorching sun, his ranch appeared on the horizon. A modest but sturdy building, surrounded by corrals and with a well of fresh water that glittered like a promise. Cole quickened his pace as much as he could. He carried Yuma inside his house and carefully laid her in his own bed. The children didn't leave her side for an instant. He brought fresh water from the well, clean cloths, everything he could need. With infinite patience, Cole moistened Yuma's lips. He let small drops of water fall into her mouth, waiting for her body to respond. The children watched in silence, holding hands. The minutes dragged by like hours, and then, as if a miracle of the desert, Yuma's eyelids fluttered. Her eyes slowly opened, confused at first. "Where?" Her voice was barely audible. "Mama." Luna threw herself into a hug, immediately followed by Kai. Yuma held them tightly against her chest, sobbing. Her tears were now of relief, of gratitude. Then she looked up at Cole, who stood respectfully to the side. "Who are you?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Where are we?" "My name is Cole, ma'am. You're at my ranch. You and your children are completely safe here." "Why?" Tears flowed freely down her face. Are you helping us? Why us? Cole took off his hat, looking at her with a seriousness that admitted no doubt. Because it was the right thing to do, Mrs. Yuma. No mother should be dying in the desert with her children. Now rest. I'm going to make something to eat for Luna and Kai. Tomorrow, when you're stronger, we can talk about everything. As he left the room to give them privacy, he heard Yuma murmur something in her native language. He didn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a prayer of deep gratitude. That day, without any of them knowing it yet, 3 lives had changed forever. And this was only the beginning of a story the desert would never forget. Night fell over the ranch like a soft, cool blanket, bringing relief after the day's relentless heat. Cole made a simple stew with vegetables and dried meat, nothing fancy but nutritious and filling. Luna and Kai ate with a heartbreaking desperation, as if every bite was a priceless treasure. Slowly, little ones, Cole said gently. There's enough for everyone. No one is going to take your food. Luna looked up, her big, dark eyes full of grateful tears. Kai just kept eating, too small to fully understand what had happened, but wise enough to know they were safe now. After eating, Cole took a bowl of stew and fresh water to Yuma. She was sitting up in bed, her back against the wall, looking out the window at the starry night. When Cole entered, she tensed instinctively. I brought food, he said, placing the bowl on the small table beside the bed. You need to regain your strength. Thank you, Yuma murmured, but she didn't touch the bowl. Her hands trembled slightly. Cole understood the mistrust, the fear. This woman had been through something terrible, that was evident. The children are fine, he told her, giving her space. They ate their fill and are resting in the living room. They can sleep in here with you if you prefer. Why are you doing this? Yuma asked suddenly, her voice breaking. What do you want from us? Cole looked her directly in the eyes, his expression serious but kind. I don't want anything, Mrs. Yuma. I just couldn't let you die in the desert, that's all. No one does something for nothing, she replied bitterly. There's always a price. The only price here is that you eat that stew before it gets cold, Cole said with a small smile, and that you rest. Tomorrow, if you want, you can tell me what drove you to walk through the desert with 2 small children. He left the room before she could answer, closing the door softly behind him. Morning came with the crowing of roosters and the golden light of dawn. Cole was already awake, preparing breakfast, when he heard soft footsteps. It was Yuma, with Luna and Kai holding each of her hands. She looked better, stronger, though the shadows under her eyes revealed sleepless nights. Good morning, Cole greeted, flipping tortillas in the skillet. I hope you like a simple breakfast. The children looked at the food with hungry eyes but waited for their mother's nod before approaching. Cole noticed that small detail: discipline, respect. This woman had raised her children well despite everything. They ate in silence for a while. The only sounds were the crackling of the fire in the stove and the occasional clinking of forks against plates. Finally, Yuma spoke. My husband died 8 months ago. Her voice was low but firm. It was an accident during a hunt, a stray arrow. No one was to blame, but he was gone and we were left alone. Cole listened in silence, not interrupting. At first, the tribe was kind. They gave us food, they helped us. But a woman alone with 2 small children, she stopped, swallowing hard. I can't hunt like the men. I can't bring in big game. The children need constant care. We became a burden. Luna stared at her plate, her small shoulders tense. Kai snuggled closer to his mother. The tribe chief called me 2 weeks ago, Yuma continued, her voice trembling slightly. He said they could no longer feed us, that I had to find another way, find another man to take us in or leave. He wasn't cruel saying it, just practical. The tribe has many mouths to feed. They can't carry those who don't contribute. So he just cast you out. Cole's voice held a note of contained indignation. He didn't cast me out, Yuma corrected. He gave me a choice. I could stay if I agreed to marry a much older man who had lost his wife. He needed someone to cook and clean. I needed protection and food for my children. But, asked Cole, sensing there was more to the story. But that man, Yuma closed her eyes briefly. That man looked at me in a way that frightened me, and he looked at Luna in a way that terrified me even more. She's barely 6, but he already talked about how in a few years she would make a good second wife. Cole felt fury rise in his chest, but kept his voice calm. So you ran. I took what little we had, some food, water, blankets, and we walked. I didn't know where we were going. I only knew we had to get away. I thought maybe we would find another town, another kinder tribe, or maybe, her voice broke, maybe it was better to die free in the desert than to live in a cage of fear. Silence filled the kitchen. Luna had tears streaming down her cheeks. Kai didn't fully understand, but he knew his mom was sad. Cole stood up, walked to the window, and looked toward the horizon. Then he turned back to Yuma with determination in his eyes. Mrs. Yuma, listen to me carefully. You and your children can stay here as long as you need. This house has space. The ranch has work. It's not charity, it's simple human decency. And no one, absolutely no one, will ever harm you again while I'm breathing. Yuma looked at him with eyes full of tears. Why? Why are you so kind to us? You don't know us. We're strangers. Cole took off his hat and placed it on the table. My mother used to say that God puts people in our path for a reason. Maybe I was in that desert yesterday because you needed to be found, and maybe you are here because I needed to remember that there is still goodness in the world. He stood up, gathering the empty plates. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do on the ranch. You can rest, explore, do whatever you need. This is your home now, at least for the time being. As he walked out, Yuma called out to him, "Cole." He stopped at the door. "Thank you, I don't have enough words, but thank you." Cole nodded with a small smile and walked out into the bright morning sun. Behind him in the kitchen, a mother and her two children were beginning to feel something they hadn't experienced in a long time, hope. And somewhere in the desert, the wind whispered that this story was just beginning to unfold. 3 weeks had passed since that day in the desert. Cole's ranch had changed in ways he never could have imagined. It was no longer just a silent place where a lonely man worked from sunup to sundown. Now there were children's laughter, the aroma of fresh bread baking, and a warmth the walls had never known before. Yuma had recovered fully. Her cheeks had regained their color. Her eyes no longer showed that constant fear. She worked around the ranch without being asked, tending the small garden, mending clothes, cooking meals that made Cole wonder how he had survived on his own cooking all those years. Luna and Kai ran around the ranch as if they had always lived there. The girl had discovered a passion for horses, especially Cole's brown mare, Kainla. Kai followed Cole everywhere like a little shadow, imitating his every move, every gesture. It was a quiet Saturday morning when everything changed. Cole was repairing a section of the corral fence when Kainla began to neigh nervously. He looked up and his heart stopped for an instant. 3 riders were approaching along the desert path. Even from a distance, Cole recognized their appearance. Apache. "Yuma," he called in a calm but urgent voice, "take the children inside now." She was near the well, drawing water. Seeing the direction of his gaze, the bucket fell from her hands. Her face paled. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no. Inside." "Now," Cole repeated firmly, "and stay with them no matter what." Yuma took Luna and Kai by the hands and ran toward the house. Cole watched them disappear inside before turning to face the approaching riders. His hand rested near his belt, not on his gun, but close enough if he needed it, though he prayed it wouldn't be necessary. The 3 men stopped their horses in front of the ranch. The one in the center, clearly the leader, was a man about 40 years old with a face marked by sun and years. His eyes were hard as flint. The other 2 were younger, likely tribal warriors. "Good morning," Cole greeted in Spanish, keeping his tone neutral and respectful. The leader watched him in silence for a moment that felt eternal. Then he spoke in halting but understandable Spanish. "I'm looking for a woman, Yuma. She has 2 children. They were seen heading this direction weeks ago." "And what do you want with her?" Cole asked, neither confirming nor denying anything. "She is from my tribe. She left without permission. The children must return." "What if she doesn't want to return?" Cole stepped forward, his posture relaxed but alert. "What if she has her reasons for leaving?" The leader's eyes narrowed dangerously. "It is not your concern, cowboy. Give me the woman and the children now." "I'm afraid I can't do that," Cole replied calmly. "This is my land, and anyone who seeks refuge here has it, no matter where they come from." One of the young warriors shifted uneasily, his hand going to the knife on his belt. The leader raised a hand, stopping him. "You don't understand the situation, white man. That woman has obligations to the tribe. There is a man who paid for her. She belongs to him." "No one belongs to anyone," Cole's voice hardened. "She is a free person. Her children are free, and as long as they are under my roof, no one is going to force them into anything." "You would risk your life for an Apache woman and her bastards." The young warrior spat with contempt. It was then that the house door opened. Yuma walked out, her head high, though Cole could see the fear in her eyes. Luna followed, clinging to her mother's skirt. "No," Cole said firmly, turning toward them. "Yuma, go back inside." But she kept walking until she stood beside Cole, looking directly at the leader of the riders. "Red Eagle," she said in a trembling but firm voice, "I am not going back." "Yuma, you are a fool," Red Eagle replied, his voice more sad than angry. "You cannot survive alone. What will you do? Live as a servant to this cowboy?" "I will live free," she answered. "My children will grow up without fear, without being sold like cattle." The leader sighed heavily, looking between Yuma and Cole. "Gray Cloud paid 3 horses for you. It is a fair price. He expects a wife." Gray Cloud is nearly 60 years old, and he already talks of taking Luna as a second wife when she turns 10. Yuma's voice broke. "What kind of mother would I be if I allowed that?" There was a tense silence. The other 2 warriors looked uncomfortable. Clearly they hadn't known that detail. Cole felt it was time to intervene. "Red Eagle," he said with respect, "I understand traditions, obligations, but there is something more important than all that. There is dignity. There is a mother's right to protect her children. Isn't that also part of your culture, protecting the most vulnerable?" Red Eagle stared at him, evaluating. "You speak well, cowboy, but words don't change facts. Yuma has a debt to the tribe. Gray Cloud has a right." "Then pay Gray Cloud," Cole said suddenly. 3 horses, you said. I have horses, good horses. I will give them to him. The debt will be settled." Everyone stood in shock. Yuma turned to look at him with enormous eyes. "You would do that?" Asked Red Eagle, clearly surprised. 3 horses for a woman who isn't even your wife." "I would do it because it's the right thing to do," Cole replied, "and because no child deserves to be sold like merchandise." Red Eagle dismounted from his horse and walked toward Cole. The 2 men stood face to face. The Apache leader studied Cole's face for a long moment. "You have honor, cowboy. That is rare to see in any man, regardless of the color of his skin." He turned to Yuma. "If that is your wish, Yuma, then stay. But know that once you leave officially, you cannot return. Is that what you want?" Yuma looked at Cole, then at her children, and finally back at Red Eagle. Yes, it is what I want. My children deserve a better life, and here they have it. Red Eagle nodded slowly. Very well, Cowboy, bring your 3 best horses. I will take them to Gray Cloud. The debt will be paid. Yuma will be free of her obligation to the tribe. Cole went to the corral and selected 3 of his best horses. They were strong, well-trained animals. They were worth much more than 3 ordinary horses, but he didn't care. Some things were worth more than money. As the warriors tied the horses to take them, Red Eagle approached Yuma one last time. You were a good wife to Brave Wolf, he said softly. He would be proud of your courage. Take good care of his children. I will, Yuma promised, tears in her eyes. 3 riders mounted and began to ride away, but Red Eagle stopped and looked back one last time. Cowboy, he called out, take good care of them, and if you ever need help, if anyone threatens them, send word. Red Eagle does not forget honor when he sees it. Cole nodded with respect. Thank you. The riders disappeared into the desert horizon, taking the horses and with them Yuma's past. When they were gone, she turned to Cole with tears streaming down her face. You lost 3 horses for us. How will we ever pay you back? Cole smiled, kneeling down to Luna and Kai's level as they came running out of the house. You are already paying me back with your presence, your joy. That is worth more than 1,000 horses. And in that moment, under the bright Arizona sun, a broken family began to heal. The road would be long, but now they would travel it together. The days following Red Eagle's visit brought a peace none of them had ever known before. It was as if a dark cloud had finally lifted, allowing the sun to shine fully on the ranch. Yuma walked with her head higher. Her shoulders no longer carried the weight of constant fear. The children laughed more freely, their voices filling the air with music Cole never knew he needed to hear. One afternoon, while Cole was repairing the stable roof, he heard shouts of excitement. He climbed down quickly to find Luna running toward him, her eyes shining with happiness. Cole, look what I made. She yelled, waving something in her hand. It was a small braided cord made from dried desert herbs. It wasn't perfect. The knots were uneven and some threads were coming loose, but it was made with so much love and effort that Cole felt a lump form in his throat. It's for you, Luna said shyly. Mama taught me how to make it. She says it brings good luck. Cole knelt down, taking the cord carefully, as if it were the most valuable treasure in the world. It's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me, little one. Thank you. He hugged her and felt her cling to him tightly. When he let her go, he saw Yuma watching them from the doorway of the house, a soft smile on her lips. That night, after the children were asleep, Cole and Yuma sat on the porch as had become their custom. The sky was full of stars, so bright they looked like jewels scattered on black velvet. The silence between them was comfortable, not forced. Kai called me Dad today, Yuma said suddenly. Her voice was barely a whisper. We were playing with some sticks and he just said it, Dad. Cole felt his heart skip a beat. And what did you do? I told him Cole was Cole, not Dad, that his dad was in heaven watching over them. Yuma paused, nervously playing with her hands, but he looked at me with those big eyes and said he knew his dad was in heaven, but Cole was here and he could be Dad too. And Luna? Asked Cole gently. Luna is more cautious. She remembers her father more, but I see her watching you when you work, when you tell us stories at night. There is hope in her eyes, something I thought she had lost forever. Cole looked toward the dark horizon, choosing his words carefully. Yuma, I would never try to replace their father. He was their father. He always will be, but if the children want, if you want, I could be something more. Not a replacement, but something new, something different, but just as real. Yuma turned to him, her eyes shining in the moonlight. And what am I to you, Cole? A responsibility, a charity project. You are. Cole stopped, surprised by the intensity of his own feelings. You are the reason I wake up with a smile. You are the voice that makes this house a home. You are the bravest woman I have ever known, and every day that passes I realize I don't want this to ever end. Yuma stifled a sob, bringing a hand to her mouth. I'm scared, she confessed, scared to trust again. Scared that this is just a dream and I'll wake up back in the desert, alone and lost. Cole moved closer, taking her hand gently. It's not a dream, Yuma. This is real as these stars, as this air we breathe, and you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to rush into feeling anything. Just let me be here. Let me be part of your lives. A tear rolled down Yuma's cheek. Cole wiped it away with his thumb, with a tenderness that surprised them both. We've been together a month, Yuma said in a trembling voice. A month that changed everything. I went from dying in the desert to this, to having a roof, food, safety, to having what? Asked Cole softly. Hope, she whispered, to having hope again. They stayed like that, hands intertwined, looking at the stars. Neither spoke, but both felt the shift in the air. Something had begun between them, something delicate but powerful. Days turned into weeks, and weeks began to feel like a wonderful eternity. Cole taught Luna to ride Canela. The girl had a natural talent. Her connection with the animal was beautiful to see. Kai followed Cole everywhere, learning about the ranch, the animals, the hard but satisfying work of caring for the land. One afternoon, while Cole was showing them how to feed the chickens, Luna asked something that caught him off guard. Cole, why did you live alone before we came? He stopped, considering the question. The children deserved honesty, because I lost hope of having a family, he said simply. I thought some men were meant to be alone. That was my life, and I had to accept it. And now? Asked Kai, his eyes big and innocent. Cole looked toward the house where Yuma was preparing dinner, smoke rising peacefully from the chimney. He looked at the two children in front of him, their little faces full of curiosity and affection. Now I know I was wrong. Sometimes family isn't the one you're born into, but the one you find, or the one that finds you. Luna ran to hug him, followed by Kai. The three of them stayed like that in the corral, surrounded by clucking chickens, the afternoon sun painting everything golden. That night after dinner, something extraordinary happened. Luna, who had been unusually quiet, approached Cole with some paper in her hands. They were drawings of all of them. Cole, Yuma, her, and Kai, together like a family. "Can we hang this on the wall?" she asked shyly, like real families do. Cole felt tears threaten to spill, but he held them back. Instead, he smiled widely. "I think that's perfect, little one. Where do you think it should go?" "By the fireplace," Luna said decisively, "so we can all see it every day." And so, with care and small nails, Cole hung the drawing exactly where Luna had asked. Yuma watched from the kitchen, her eyes moist with emotion. That night before sleep, Luna did something none of them expected. She approached Cole, who was sitting in his favorite chair, and climbed into his lap. "Cole," she said quietly, "it's okay if sometimes I call you Dad, not all the time, just sometimes when I feel like I want to." Cole hugged her tightly, his voice broken with emotion. "Little one, it would be the greatest honor of my life." Luna nodded against his chest, then added in a whisper, "My first dad is in the stars watching over us. But I think he's happy that you're here watching over us too." "I believe that too," Cole replied, kissing her head. "I believe that too." When Luna finally went to sleep, Yuma approached Cole. Without a word, she took his hand and placed it over her heart. "Do you feel that?" she asked. "My heart is beating again. For so long I only existed, beating because I had to. But now it beats because it wants to, because it has a reason." Cole looked into her eyes, seeing a reflection of his own feelings. "Mine too," he admitted. And under the roof of that house that had been empty for so long, four hearts began to beat in the same rhythm, weaving together the threads of a new family. A family forged not by blood, but by something stronger. By love, by choice, by hope. And the desert that had brought them together seemed to whisper its blessing with every passing night breeze. 6 months had passed since that fateful day in the desert. Cole's ranch had flourished in ways that went beyond the physical. The garden Yuma had planted now yielded fresh vegetables. The corrals were full of life, but more importantly, the house was full of love. It was a Saturday morning when Cole woke up with a plan in mind. He had been thinking about it for weeks, but today felt like the perfect day. He got up early, prepared breakfast, and waited for everyone to wake up. Luna was the first to appear, yawning and rubbing her eyes. She was 7 now. She had grown several inches, and her confidence had blossomed like a desert flower after rain. "Good morning, Dad," she said naturally, as she had every morning for the last 4 months. Cole's heart still skipped a beat every time he heard that word. "Good morning, my girl. Sleep well." "I dreamed that Kainla and I were flying over the desert," Luna replied with a dreamy smile. "It was beautiful." Kai came running moments later, already fully awake and full of energy as always. At 4 years old, he was a whirlwind of curiosity and laughter. "Dad, Cole, can we work in the stable today? I want to learn to fix the horseshoes like you promised." "Of course, champ, but first I have something special planned for today." Yuma appeared then, her long, dark hair loose over her shoulders. She had gained weight, her face had color, and her eyes shone with a light Cole loved to see every morning. She had become something more than the mother of the children or the woman who lived on his ranch. She had become his world. "Something special?" she asked curiously, pouring coffee for both of them. "It's a surprise," Cole replied with a mysterious smile, "but I need all of you to trust me." After breakfast, "We're going for a ride." The children screamed with excitement. Family outings had become something special for them, moments they treasured like precious jewels. After breakfast, Cole prepared the wagon. It was one he rarely used, but today he had cleaned it and decorated it with wildflowers he had gathered at dawn. Yuma noticed and looked at him with questioning eyes, but he just smiled. The trip took them across the desert, but along a different path than usual. They climbed a rocky hill until they reached a place Cole had discovered years ago. It was a mesa with a breathtaking view of the valley, where you could see miles and miles of golden land stretching under the infinite sky. "Wow," screamed Luna as they got down from the wagon. "It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it," Yuma whispered, her eyes scanning the landscape. Cole led them to a solitary tree growing at the edge of the mesa, an old oak that had somehow found the strength to take root in that impossible place. "This place," Cole began, "is special to me. I used to come here when I felt lonely, when I needed to think. This tree always reminded me that even in the harshest places, life finds a way to flourish." He knelt to be at the children's level. "Luna, Kai, I want you to know something. From the day I found you, my life changed completely. You gave me something I never thought I'd have. You gave me a family, you gave me love, you gave me purpose." He turned to Yuma, taking her hands. "And you, Yuma, you gave me a reason to wake up every morning with joy. You taught me that the heart can heal, can love again. You showed me that true strength isn't in being alone, but in daring to trust, to open your heart despite the fear." Yuma had tears in her eyes, though a smile lit up her face. Cole took something from his pocket. It was a small, hand-carved wooden box. "I spent the last few weeks making this," he said, opening it. Inside was a simple ring made of silver he had worked himself. "It's not fancy or expensive, but it's made with all my heart." He knelt completely before Yuma. Yuma, I know you've suffered, I know you've lost, I know trusting again is frightening. But I also know that what we have is real, it's strong, it's forever. Will you do me the honor of being my wife, of making official what our hearts already know? Yuma brought her hands to her mouth, sobbing. Luna and Kai watched with enormous eyes, holding their breath. Cole, Yuma finally spoke, her voice trembling. When I was dying in that desert, the only thing I asked for was that my children would live. I never imagined I would find something more. I never dreamed my heart could beat for someone again. But you gave us everything. You gave us life, home, love. She knelt in front of him, taking his face in her hands. Yes, Cole, 1,000 times yes. I will be your wife, and I promise to love you every day of my life. Cole slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her gently as Luna and Kai screamed with joy, running to hug them both. The four of them fell into a group embrace, laughing and crying at the same time. Does that mean we're a real family now? Asked Kai innocently. We were always a real family, son, Cole replied, ruffling his hair. But now it's official. We're going to have a wedding, yelled Luna, dancing in circles. A real wedding. Yuma and Cole looked at each other, their foreheads touching, their hands intertwined. Do you think your first husband would approve of this? Cole asked quietly. Yuma looked toward the sky where a lone eagle circled above them. Look, she whispered, an eagle. In my culture, it's a messenger from the spirit world. I think he's giving us his blessing. They spent the afternoon in that magical place, making plans, dreaming of the future. Kai found interesting rocks he declared were treasures. Luna made wildflower crowns for everyone. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky in oranges and pinks, Cole knew this moment would be etched in his memory forever. Back at the ranch that night, while the children slept, Cole and Yuma sat on the porch under the stars as on so many other nights. But tonight was different. Tonight there was a promise in the air. I thought my story had ended, Yuma said softly, her head on Cole's shoulder. I thought I had lost my chance to be happy. Sometimes the best stories begin when we think everything is over, Cole replied, kissing her forehead. Sometimes the desert we think will kill us is actually the road that leads us home. Yuma raised her hand, admiring the ring that glittered in the moonlight. This is our home now, she said with certainty. Not just this house, this ranch, the four of us together, that is home. Yes, Cole agreed. Home isn't a place, it's the people you love, the ones who love you back. It's waking up and knowing you're not alone. It's watching your children grow, sharing meals, laughing together, crying together. Yuma turned to look directly at him. I love you, Cole. I didn't think I could say those words again, but I feel them with every fiber of my being. I love you. And I love you, Yuma, with everything I am, with everything I have. They kissed under the stars, a kiss full of promises and hope. And if anyone had been watching from the desert that night, they would have seen what looked like a dream scene. A house lit by warm lamps, a family sleeping in peace, two people on the porch, embracing, looking toward a future that shone brighter than all the stars combined. The desert that had nearly destroyed them had in the end been the instrument of their salvation. It had led a desperate mother and her children to the only man for miles who had a heart big enough to love them without.